This is the story of how I found out that my father passed away. The story of my relationship with my father is a long one, which you can read in my book. And I made a video where I said that I was unfuckwithable. And I just looked at it the other day and realized that I posted that energy on the very day that he passed away. In retrospect, I was feeling the release of his karmic tie with me. About 2 weeks after my father passed away, I had a dream. Somebody was in my bedroom eating. It looked like they were sitting at a table. So they were sitting there eating, and they were thinking about me and thinking about wanting to take everything from me. And I became lucid in my dream, wondering who is this entity that has entered into my space. I began to feel fear in myself. Who is this person that wants to take everything from me? Is it my ex-husband? Because that's what it felt like. That was the energy of the being. And as soon as I began sending my energy back, thinking and trying to figure out who this individual was, their eyes got wide and they looked at me and they slammed their hands on the table, stood up, and ran over to me. At that point, I woke up and I was like, who is this energy? What is this? Who is attacking me? They paused and then they turned their attention to my child. And as soon as they turned their energy to my child, I immediately began invoking the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and calling on my guides to protect me. At that point, the entity stopped and it looked very confused. The next morning when I woke up, I was like, who the hell was in my room last night? And so I did a little research on Facebook and had a feeling it might be my father. And sure enough, that is how I found out that my father had indeed passed away. Some of my family members had posted little broken heart emojis and rest in peace. So I erected an altar in honor of my father and I prayed. I also occasionally go to the church across the street from my shop and light candles there and pray. And I did that on that day. And as I was kneeling and praying for my father, I felt entities step up from the altar on my left, and they were watching me. They were standing there. So it felt sort of like Jesus. I wasn't sure at the time who it was, but later realized it was my father and his guides that had brought him to see that I was the one praying for him. It was my forgiveness that set him free. As I prayed, I asked for guides to help him, and I tried to send him a message because I realized that he didn't know that he was dead. He was actually in a hell created by his own mind. So he wasn't aware that he had passed away, and his thoughts brought him directly into my room. He was thinking about me in a negative way, as he always did, which transported him immediately into my bedroom. And that is where I connected with him and realized that he needed some help. And so I prayed and I sent my consciousness into his hell and told him to ask for help, that he was worthy to be brought out of hell and for healing. And a few days after that, he came to me again in a dream. He looked like his younger self that I remember from when I was a kid, and he was showing me his body, saying, I'm still alive, but I have a body. He was amazed and excited and happy. He was like a little kid. And another dream I had where he came and visited me was he was looking at me with crazy eyes. It was before he'd done a little bit of healing, and he was telling me, why am I going to fight for things that aren't worth anything, which I found out later to mean that he had created a will specifically to exclude me. And he was advising me that it wasn't worth fighting for, which I agree with, but it was still painful that he did that to me. The most painful thing is that he'd been doing this to me my whole life. This negative psychic energy had been coming toward me my whole life, and I thought I was crazy. But actually, it turns out it was my father attacking me, and I was highly sensitive, and so I felt it, and so that did a lot of damage to my life. So he has now reincarnated. I have had another dream where he's in a wheelchair. He was going to get a colonoscopy, and I was in the procedure room. And when he saw me, he was like, "Oh, fuck." And I ran to him and wrapped my arms around his neck and gave him love, and he just kind of looked. So he still needs a lot of healing. And so as I look upon him with my judgment and wondering, why aren't you a better person than you are? It's simply because of experience and lack of experience. Another thing is, the funny thing is, in two of those dreams where he came to me right after he died, he was showing me his body, and he was specifically showing me his skin and his eyes. And I found out later, after I contacted my family to confirm that he had died, I found out that he had donated his organs, and his skin and his eyeballs are still alive in somebody's body. So a little side note, organ donation is not a good idea from a spiritual perspective. So now he has almost been gone for a year, and I've done more healing in the last year than I have ever been able to do in my life because of the relationship that I had with my father, which I will tell you about again. I'm writing a book. I have a lot of information about my past lives and about how I became involved with most of the people, the family members in my life. I've told some of these stories before, but it will be nice to have them all in one place for those who are interested and who may learn something from the things I've experienced in my life. So may he rest in peace. God bless him, and I will see him again in the next life.